Good evening. It is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, and coming to you from Lonely Tree Media headquarters in Tacoma, Washington. This is the Best Lamb Sports Show.
There's an Olympic gold medal waiting for somebody who wants it the most. Now Thompson starts to wind up. Curley's going with him. This is close. Jamaica's going to do it. Kishane Thompson is a gold medalist.
I'm your host, David Lamb. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker.
Okay. Well, I mean, delayed. The guy that runs the lights that says applause, the applause light.
He's out sick.
We had to fire it, is what happened. And he was drinking on the job, and then,
The whole thing.
yeah, missing his cues, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was bad. That was the call from NBC at the Olympics for the men's 100-meter final. And as you heard there, Kishane Thompson from Jamaica was your winner, except he wasn't. We'll talk about that in a minute. And a lot more. I that was one of the most confusing moments I've ever witnessed in sports. Just gonna say that. We're gonna talk about that. We're not there yet. I want to give it away, but we're gonna talk about it in a minute. I was mesmerized by that. Anyway, so how have you been?
Not bad.
Not bad. Good.
Not bad. Yeah, just grinding away.
Yeah, we got MLB baseball to talk about. We got losing. We're gonna talk about losing. Formula One, that 100-meter final. We're gonna talk about college football and the NFL and other things too. So we got a lot of things to talk about. So let's get right to it because that's what we do. Let's talk about Major League Baseball first because that's where we are. Have you noticed? And judging by the attendance, you haven't. The Chicago White Sox have lost 21 straight baseball games.
Yeah, they were just talking about today on the radio here in Colorado. They were like, "Yeah, the Rockies suck, but at least we're not White Sox bad." Am I right?
They just tied the American League record for losses in a row, 21 with the Orioles. One of those years the Orioles were bad. They're only 2 away from the record, the Major League Baseball record for losses in a row. They're I mean, quite frankly, they're terrible. Let's
If you're gonna do something, do it well, even poorly. Do it well, poorly. Do it poorly, the best.
yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Monday night they lost 5-1 to Oakland to tie the record, the American League record, with the 88 Orioles. The National League record is the Philadelphia Phillies have lost 23 straight in 1961. Which is pretty bad, right? I mean, that's a lot of losses considering. Chicago, by the way, is 27-88 this year. The White Sox. Yeah, I mean it's so bad. It's not even it's historically bad. They're on a pace to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst record in baseball ever. And that is it's hard to do. First of all,
Take some effort.
it takes some effort. They are, by the way, 41 and a half games out of first place in the American League Central. They're 27 games behind the Detroit Tigers for the next spot, for 4th in the American League Central.
I guess the better way to say it is that it takes no effort.
Right. They're 20 and a half games behind Oakland for that's the next worst team in the American League. And they're 20 and a half games behind them. And it doesn't matter. 17-40 at home, 10-48 on the road. It doesn't matter where you're at. And they've been outscored by 251 runs over the course of the year. For example, the worst team in the National League is the Colorado Rockies, 41-72. But they've only been outscored by 180. Right? Yeah. And they would be 14 games ahead of the White Sox. Almost 15, I guess. Anyway, it's been bad. It's been historically bad. And so that led me to think about losing. And I knew that the Phillies, the 23 game, because I'd heard it on the TV, and that was a big deal. The Phillies lost 23 back in 1961. And I thought that was, the New York Mets were bad. They went 60 and 100 one year. Anyway, they're bad. I mean, they were bad. That's a bad record. But to go where the White Sox are going at 27 and 88 is let me just do some math for you, okay? 162 times their winning percentage right now, which is .235, is going to win them 38 games. They're going to have 38 wins and 124 losses. It is going to be so bad. Now, that's not saying they can't, turn it around. But I guess at this point, tanking, I mean, there's no reason, you don't even have to tank now. You're so far back, you don't have to tank. Right?
Right. Well, you to say you don't have to tank, you don't have to do much more than go 500 the entire rest of the year, and you will still be in dead last.
Yeah.
Like you can't just start winning, but you could just keep losing, but you don't have to. You just need to go 500, and you'll maintain bottom place.
Yeah. So they played 115 games, right? And they're playing right now. But let's just back up. Going into today, they played 115 games, right? So that means there's 47 games left. If they go 24 and 23, they'll have 51 wins, right? That means there are only right now there are only 4 teams in baseball that don't already have 51 wins. So if they go 500 the rest of the way, they have a chance maybe to catch a team who decides to tank, but I doubt it. I mean, they're just too far back. It's just so bad.
What's the incentive to tank is the question. What does tanking get you in MLB?
And in Major League Baseball, it's difficult because you don't have that same guaranteed, every once in a while a guy comes along, Bryce Harper comes along, right, and somebody grabs him, and
Adley Rutschman was a shoe in.
Yeah, there's a few, but it just doesn't happen that often. So when you go out in the draft, you get what you get, and it sometimes is great.
So tanking doesn't get you anything.
No, I don't think it's intentional. I think they're just bad, unless they're trying to just revamp the entire roster. Trade everyone away and get new players, and that's kind of what you do when you're really bad. Is just when you realize your season is over, you trade away the good players that you have, and just try and acquire young talent.
Maybe they're tanking so they can be relocated to Portland.
Or Charlotte. Anyway, San Jose, wherever it is. I don't know if they're going to have a team. Anyway, there's that. Yeah, it's then it led me to start thinking about losing, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
It's the 76-77 Buccaneers lost 26 straight football games. That is an entire season plus, which is, when you think of it that way, is like the worst losing streak of any team ever. If you lost...
You said 76?
Yeah, 76-77. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was 2 years worth, but they lost. Isn't that right? 76-77? I think that's right. Don't quote me.
They were on 14-76.
Yeah, they lost 26 straight games. So 26 straight games is so, when you lose an entire season's worth of football, any sport, it's bad. It's hard to do in baseball. I don't think you can lose an entire season. I mean, obviously the White Sox.
Steve Spurrier was the quarterback of that team.
Steve Spurrier was the quarterback of that team. You're not wrong. Heisman Trophy winner Steve Spurrier was a quarterback of that team. Which doesn't really mean anything, but yeah, it was bad. The Pistons, the Detroit Pistons, right, lost an NBA record 26 or 28. Oh, now I've lost my thing. Longest losing streaks. The 76ers lost 28 games. The Detroit Pistons 28. The Pistons lost 28 games. Those are bad seasons, right? I mean, that's in the NBA. That's a third of your season that you've just lost, right? And then I went to hockey, right? Because hockey has two different kinds of losing. There's losing streaks, and then there's winless streaks, right? Because you can tie and not win.
Right.
How long would it take you to actually win a game? Well, the Washington Capitals are one of those teams with a losing streak, 17 straight game losing streak. Also, the San Jose Sharks from 92-93. The Washington Capitals from 74-75. Those teams lost 17 straight games. And that, I was like, okay, well, what about a winless streak? Because a winless streak, without winning, the Winnipeg Jets in 80-81 had a 30-game winless streak.
That's pretty brutal.
I mean, I don't know how many of those were ties, how many of those were wins, but 30 games without winning a game. And then I mentioned the 74-75 Capitals lost 17 straight, right? Well, the 75-76 Capitals had a 25 game winless streak. So, and then the 77-78 Capitals had a 20 game winless streak. So the Washington Capitals, you want to talk about winless streaks? Also, the 70. There's two other. They had two separate 17 game winless streaks in 74-75. The Capitals did. Yeah,
That's a tough deal.
they've cornered the market on not winning. I guess that's the best way.
At times,
At
because
times,
now
yeah.
they're one of the best. For the last
Right.
decade, they've been one of the best hockey
Well,
teams.
Ovechkin saves everything, right? Alex Ovechkin.
Good player changes everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, I was fascinated by losing for quite a while this afternoon. I was literally just looking up losing, and I was like, man. I didn't look at what the college football record for losing was. I know Prairie View A&M at one point in time had lost like 2 seasons worth or 3 seasons worth, I don't know, worth of football games. But I didn't really look it up because I was like, meh, I don't know. Anyway, you could go down to like what's the record all time for losing period, right? There's got to be a higher number than 20 something, right? Somebody somewhere has lost.
Sure, there's
40
some
or
high
50,
school that
yeah, right.
Game in 17 years. Or
Right,
something like that.
That's what I was thinking. But
here's interesting. I'm looking up this 76-77 Buccaneers roster, and there's a number that sticks out to me. The 77 Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 2-12. With they didn't win a game until later in the season.
Right.
Their last 2 games of the season, actually. Hey, what do I say? You got to finish strong. Sell tickets for next year. They had a grand total of 7 touchdowns.
All season?
On the season.
Oh,
3
gosh.
passing, 4 rushing, and then they made 17 field goals and 10 extra points.
So they didn't.
They had 3 passing touchdowns on 321 passing attempts on the year between one, or I guess it was more than that. 321 for one guy. Oh no, it was just 321. Yeah.
Oh,
3 passing touchdowns. If my fantasy quarterback doesn't have 3 passing touchdowns in a weekend, I'm pissed.
Right.
And they had 3 on the year.
On the year. Right. Yeah. Well,
it's not a great deal.
And by the way, the White Sox are winning 2-1 over the Athletics right now in Oakland at the end of the 4th inning. Not that means anything. It's still 5 innings for them to screw it up, but just saying that's out there. And your Rockies are beating the Mets 5-3 in the top of the 7th.
I almost thought about going to the Rockies Mets game tomorrow night and be like, no, I've seen the Mets before.
Oh my gosh, the Mets have this problem with teams that are under 500. They swept 2 from the Yankees. They took the Cardinals game yesterday, right? That was a makeup game. Cardinals are battling for a playoff spot. What did they do? They lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. They've lost 2 out of 3. I don't understand. They just can't beat teams that are bad. They beat the good teams, but they cannot beat the bad teams. And still, they're only a game behind Atlanta.
That's just playing up and down to other people's.
It's bad,
talent.
though. It's just frustrating as a fan.
I agree, but that's whenever you see a team that does that, where they lose easy games and win hard games, it's playing up and down. Like you need to be more consistent as a team.
Well, and
play to your capabilities.
And everybody else is winning. The Braves have lost 3 straight, right? The Braves currently hold the last playoff spot. Arizona and San Diego have moved ahead of both Atlanta and New York, so the Mets are out of the playoffs currently, 1 game behind Atlanta. They need the wins, and the Rockies are the worst team in the National League, and they're going to lose this game tonight. You watch.
Well, the Rockies, I mean, they have not been good. Let's be clear about that. But since the All-Star break, they've been improved. They've won 2 series against the Giants. They won another series that they were not supposed to win. They swept someone they were not supposed to sweep. So they've done some good things since the break. But they might win 2 of these 3 games. Right. Like, because that's what they do, or they'll win none of them, and they'll let up all the wins in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah, it's Colorado's 25 games out of first place, by the way. Just FYI.
Yeah, it's a tough division.
It's not over yet, though. So there's that. Let's talk about Formula One. Formula One was interesting. The Rolex Belgian Grand Prix that happened last weekend? It was last weekend, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm missing a weekend, but I'm not yet. So the Belgian Grand Prix. No, it was 2 weekends ago.
July 28th.
July 28th. What day is today? Today's the 6th.
2 weekends ago.
2 weekends ago. So was an interesting race. I didn't hate it. Um, it was an interesting race. In that Max Verstappen wins the qualifying, but he has to start 11th because he had taken a new engine, like fifth engine or something. He had exceeded the limit, right?
Power unit
Yeah,
penalty.
power unit, right? And that happens every year. He did this at this same race last year. It was exactly
Yeah.
the same. And the person that finished second in qualifying, Charles Leclerc, also finished second last year and started from the pole last year. Same exact result. It's kind of weird, right? So Leclerc moves up to the pole, and Sergio Perez starts second, right? Which is like, wow, where did that come from, Sergio? Right? Because he's been struggling all year, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I did not expect that, but um, the race goes on, and Lando Norris struggles. He never seemed to be in the race. Max never seemed to. He fought his way up to like fourth or fifth, but he never seemed to be right there. Like you thought he was going to win, right?
He was never close enough. Yeah.
No, he never. It wasn't dominant at all. Um, it was interesting. Sergio just kept steadily falling down. What he finished seventh or eighth?
Seventh.
Yeah, seventh. It just kind of kept. It kind of just kind of it ended up being Mercedes' race, right? So
Yeah.
Hamilton and Russell were up at the front, right? Piastri was in there battling with them. And in the end, George Russell finishes first, Lewis Hamilton second, or sorry, Piastri. No, yeah, Lewis Hamilton second, Piastri's third.
Yep.
And then I didn't even know until the next day that Russell gets disqualified. His car is 1.5 kilograms underweight after they drain the fuel from it at the end of the race. Woo! Well, for those of you who don't speak metric, it's 3.3 pounds. So, yeah, that's not much. I mean, that's not much fuel either. That's, a gallon or, maybe of fuel.
Yeah.
It's not much. So they fueled these things up within a, fraction. They know that they got to have just a little extra in case there's delays, right? And they do. And we watched people run out of gas or have not enough fuel to test. Remember was that Vettel?
Yeah.
Or Alonso, one of those two guys ran out of gas. After the race was over, they crossed the line. The checkered flag is out. They go along a little ways and they had to stop because they're out of gas. Well, if you don't have a liter to test, they will disqualify you then too. But anyway, that was interesting that happened after. I didn't find out about it. I wasn't really paying attention, but hit the minimum weight 798 kilograms is what they're authorized, by the way, for your car.
Right.
That's the minimum weight. Well, he was 1.1 under. So Hamilton wins. Piastri's second. Leclerc finishes third. The gap is like 1.1 seconds between Russell, Hamilton, and Piastri. Those guys were 1.1 seconds within. It was a good race in that everyone was right there. It was competitive, and Max didn't run away with it. That was nice. That's what we've been asking for. These races have been good. What was your impression? Did you feel like at some point Max was going to make a move and come up and win this? And yeah, I guess that's my question. I always feel like, yeah, that's my. Let me ask you that first. Sorry.
No, he was battling. He was battling with Lando the whole time, but he could never. It's not a track that has the best passing zones, so he never got those major opportunities. Lando was doing a really good job at Max would squeeze in close, in the middle of a lap, but as they got to, towards the DRS zone, Max was always at like 0.9, and he would have to recover over that short straight run.
Right.
And he could never, he fought the whole entire race and struggled to do it. Eventually he got past him, but by that point, I think there was a handful of laps left.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter because then he was battling with Leclerc.
Right,
he was
yeah.
trying to get past Leclerc, and Oscar Piastri had an absolute blistering fast car. Everyone agrees if that race is 5 more laps, Oscar Piastri wins walking away because he was gaining on Hamilton by a second per lap, and he was gaining, and Russell had no tires left. So
over the last 4 races, Piastri and Hamilton both have 80 points, and they are the leaders in the last 4 races. They have more than anybody else.
Oscar Piastri's solid.
He's a solid driver. And I don't know where they got him from. And judging, his first 6 races, the first half of the year, first 7 races, he was okay. You know what I mean? It was a struggle, but since Italy, since then he's been on fire. He's been scoring some points, and 2 wins, Austria, Hungary, right? He gets a second here in Belgium. He's scoring some points, but then the 2 races he didn't win at Silverstone and at Belgium, those are Lewis Hamilton. And so there's been a lot of catching up. And George Russell would be right there with this win too, but George Russell did not finish at Silverstone. And so now he gets a did not finish at Belgium, right? He's in a struggle mode too at the moment. But it's been exciting. This has been much better. The Constructors' Championship is now down to 42 points, right? 42-point lead for Red Bull over McLaren, as McLaren gained 9 points on them. Ferrari gained 4 points on Red Bull. Mercedes gained 6 points on Red Bull. This is getting close. I mean, it's getting closer. McLaren is right there. I don't know that without Sergio Perez finishing where he did last year, you're going to have a hard time winning a Constructors' Championship. You need both drivers to finish there.
Well, and even crazier than that is if Mercedes continues the pace that they continued. Like, think about the ground Mercedes has covered in 4 races, and that was with having a driver disqualified.
Right.
Like, they're absolutely firing up on everyone. Like, if they continue that same sort of pace coming out of it, I don't even know if McLaren will be able to hold off Mercedes.
Right.
Like, Mercedes is 100 points behind them. They're,
100 points,
80 or so behind Ferrari. So
right.
They'll get there, but I don't know. Mercedes, to me, has put together some of the most interesting races lately. McLaren looked like they were going to fight Max, and it was going to be the competition. And then all of a sudden, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have popped their head into every picture lately.
Yeah.
You're starting to go, crap, what is going on here?
Yeah, since Canada is when it is.
Since Canada,
Mercedes has been on a tear, and McLaren
also
too.
The official word on George Russell is that his car was the investigation by Mercedes was that it was underweight because of tire wear and plank wear.
Oh, of course.
So 3.3 pounds over the course of 4 tires in your plank, because when the tires got really low because they did a one-stop strategy, it started to wear into the plank.
That's true because that's true. I could see that, but
that's what they've said, is that they made the mistake with the one-stop strategy, not mistake per se, but
as as race engineers, you'd have to account for that, and so they didn't think of that, I'm sure, but it is what it is, and you got to finish what you got to finish, and you got to have X amount of fuel, and you got to be at a certain weight. So the plank gets worn down.
He had the fuel.
Well, no, I get it, but I'm just saying because we've seen that happen too.
That's true. Yeah.
You gotta have X amount of fuel, and you gotta have X amount of weight, and all
but his
that
plank
stuff.
wear was still within the parameters.
The limit,
it was just the overall weight
extra,
with the wear from all 5 components, 4 tires in the plank.
Right.
So
they ran a good race. I mean, he ran a great race, and it just.
I did not think the one stop was going to work for him. I thought Lewis and Piastri were both going to get him.
Hamilton was catching
in the last
him.
5 laps.
Hamilton was catching him until 4 or 5 laps left.
I swear he went team friendly.
Maybe.
I'm watching it, and all of a sudden you're like, there were a couple times, and I'm like, why are you not sending it into this corner? Why are you not trying to take this moment? And every time he had an opportunity to pass, he was very diplomatic about it. Like, I would rather us maintain the 1-2 than take a chance of knocking out one or both of us.
I would tell you that the comments from Toto afterwards were that Lewis was trying to cover Lando and Charles and other people, and Max. So, I mean, he probably was playing for second. They were playing for the 1-2. And as we've seen, that strategy hasn't worked the last couple times. People have been playing for 1-2. It just hasn't worked out. But
people get grumpy when they play for 1-2.
Right? It worked for McLaren. They got 1-2. But it should have been in a different order. But anyway.
Well, but think about even recently Red Bull and beyond that Mercedes, it's always done well to have a team that works together. Even if that working together is for Red Bull, it's like, hey, just Sergio, let Max through, let him go, and then block out. Like,
Right.
do your job, block out. For Mercedes, it was Bottas. Let Lewis
Yeah.
through and play defense.
Val
Like
Valtteri was the best number
the
2 man
ultimate
I've
teammate.
seen
Yeah.
since I've been watching. I haven't been watching forever, but since I've been watching, Valtteri Bottas at Mercedes, I don't even know why you wouldn't keep him. Why you wouldn't pay him any amount of money to stay? Because he was the ultimate number 2 guy. Did everything you'd want him to do. And
Somebody said it would be comedy if he came back and paired with Russell at Mercedes again, and then they started winning again, and everyone realized it was because of Bottas.
it might be not Lewis. It's you know what I mean. Sometimes it is. It's the supporting cast that makes you good. It's true. Not always. I I would like to see. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see at the end of the season, a runoff. Like NASCAR has this race, this points thing where if you're within a certain distance, you're racing for the championship at the end of the year. I wonder if F1 would think about something like that, like the top 4 guys have a race at the end of the season, right? For points, just those 4, right? You don't get a teammate.
Yeah.
You don't get no help. It is what it is. Of course, one of those 4 guys could be your teammate, I guess. So there's that, but. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I like Formula One right now. I didn't like it at the beginning of the season because it was like last year, but I'd like it now.
Getting old.
It is getting
It's
interesting.
I'm getting excited to watch the races again. Where
Right.
It's like, oh, hey, look, competition. This is fun.
Summer break right now. August 25th is the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. And then we're off to Azerbaijan, Baku, right? Singapore, and then Circuit of the Americas is in October. So, I forgot Monza. I'm sorry. After Zandvoort is Monza, and then Baku, and then Singapore. So there's a lot of good races. I love Baku. The city. It seems like that road circuit, is always a problem, right? It causes a lot of grief, and I like that. So that'll be interesting. Singapore also is a street circuit too. So there's a lot of things coming up. It's going to be exciting. I like it. I like watching Formula One. I didn't think I would. I'll be honest. When I first started watching it, I did not think I would like this. But this is different. It's NASCAR I don't like because everybody's running around in a big pack. They're all going about the same speed. They all do the same things. They bump on each other and they spin out. And then, it's like it's all left-hand turns and there's no strategy almost, right? It's just go as fast as you can, right? And it reminds me of, Better Off Dead. Go that way as fast as you can. If anything gets in your way, turn. I don't know. But that's kind of what it feels like. So, anyway, Formula One. So that's that. Let's talk about the 100-meter final. Kashane Thompson from Jamaica. From the camera angle that's on the TV on NBC, did you watch the race when it happened?
Yes.
I watched the race. So the camera angle on the TV, when I saw it, I said, yes. I said, Jamaica won, America 2-3. I literally called that when it happened.
I didn't.
What'd you say?
I said that I think Lyle's got it.
Oh my gosh.
And Cassie was standing right here with me to watch it. She can back me up for days. The moment it ended, I went, wow, I think Lyles might have snuck that one out. And she goes, no, it's the Jamaican guy. They confirmed him. And I'm like, no, I don't know. And then they reviewed it and I went, whoa. I literally turned to her and I go, I got eyes like a hawk.
It had to be like the last 30 meters because he was behind. He had a terrible start.
He was in last place
dead last.
The 40th meter.
Dead last.
Yeah. So over the final 60 meters, he covered 8 places.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
they were all close. I mean, everybody was right there. Yeah. That was one of the closest races I've seen where all the guys were within like a tenth of a second or 2/10 of a second. They were right there together. Noah Lyles coming from behind to win was not what I expected. I honestly expected that Jamaica had won it and that Lyles was second. That's what I had thought when I watched.
Yeah, I thought Lyles was first and Jamaica was second, but I didn't know who was third because I didn't know if it was the other U.S. guy.
I did,
or if it was this. Who's the guy in the dark green? I can't remember. South Africa. Oh, South Africa.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was the other U.S. guy or the South African guy because they were kind of neck and neck with one another.
They were. That's true. I knew the top 3. I just didn't apparently know the order. Anyway, that was a great race to watch. I learned
so much about Like your feet don't count. I didn't know
The
that your
feet,
feet don't count.
arms,
Your
your head.
waist doesn't count.
Your head
It's
doesn't
your
count.
collarbone to your
Right.
waist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't go
It's
slide.
specifically your clavicle. It's your clavicle
You
to your
can't go
waist.
sliding in, which explains why you have the sprinter's lean, as they call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that little
That little
dip, yeah.
lunge, because you're gonna try and throw your chest at the tape. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But
See DeAnthony Thomas kick return against Kansas State.
right. Yeah. No.
If
Yeah.
if you
Absolutely.
want a good example of
I-
that lean.
our baseball coach in high school taught us to do sprinter's lean at first base. The play's gonna be close. Sprinter's lean. He goes, it isn't mean you touch the base before anything. He goes, but there's a psychological thing there where you lean forward
push.
at the last
Yeah.
minute, and somebody's liable to give you a safe instead of an out. So yeah, it was interesting. That was a great race to watch. The best 9.7 seconds. I don't believe they go that fast. I can't believe those guys go that damn fast. 9.7 seconds.
It's only 300 feet.
It just keeps going, but it just keeps dwindling the time, right? Back when I was in the 80s, when I'd watch this, 10. It was 10. And then all of a sudden someone went 998. And you were like, "What just happened?" Right? And now we're down to 9.7. So the question is, where's it going? When in 20 more years are we talking about 9.5, 9.4, right? Is someone going to break 9 eventually?
Well, I think something I think is really interesting is that did you watch any of like the Breaking 2 documentary that was on about Eliot Kipchoge, who broke the 2-hour barrier for marathons?
I did not.
Yeah, so this guy became the first guy in history to go sub 2 hours in a marathon.
Yeah.
That's 24.6 or what, 26.2 miles?
26.2, yeah.
26.2 miles in under 2 hours. That's like running at a pace of like 8 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour constantly. Like, it's insane. But when I think about him and then I think about, these other guys, I know that obviously, what's his name? Usain Bolt came out and broke all kinds of records and went absolutely crazy. But
right.
I mean, in the 70s is when we got below 10 seconds.
Is that right?
And then, yeah, so the first time we broke 10 was 9.95 Jim Hines in Mexico, October 14th, 1968. That was the first time we broke 10 seconds. And then you go on down farther and you start looking at the other, like the records since then, and it's insane, man. 9.58 in 2009, somebody ran that. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know where it's gonna go. Eventually, people are just gonna be so ungodly fast, it's not gonna be funny anymore.
Right.
You're just gonna blink and the race will be over.
Right. And my thought is, why don't we teach one of these guys to catch a football? Because if I can run 100 meters in 9 or 8 seconds, right? I mean, I know with pads on it's going to be a little slower, but oh my gosh, right? Your 40 time is 4. It's under 4, right?
Yeah.
Because it has to be. Because if you ran 100 in under 10, you ran 40 in under 4, right? So if you're running a 3.940, come on, man. Who's going to catch you?
Yeah.
Who's going to stop you? And why would you not want to sign up for that? Other than the pain, I get that. There's a lot of football.
Yeah.
Is not, it's a contact sport. Track and field not so much. But I don't know. I just feel like you could teach one of these guys to run down. It's Clifford Franklin all over again, right?
Yeah.
Fastest guy on the field,
So,
can't catch a football.
I need to preface that whole Breaking 2 thing with there's a little controversy around it. Yeah. He was wearing a very special shoe that's got some debate behind it. It's a Nike shoe, but also he had pacemakers who were running with him and a car that was driving in front of him projecting a light on the ground that was showing the pace.
Yeah.
So that all of that stuff
helpful.
Kind of what's it called? It's not technically recognized by the World Athletics Association.
Gotcha.
But he is the first person who did 1:59.40.
I don't care. I don't care what shoes you're wearing. It's 4.5 minute miles. It's 4.5 minute miles. 4.5 minute miles on average for 26 miles.
For 26 miles.
I will the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. Right. This was 2000, or it would have been 1994. Best shape I've ever been in. After I came out of basic training, and I go to to the AIT in Fort Gordon, Georgia. I did a PT test there, 2 mile run, and I did it in 11 minutes. That's 5.5 miles, 5.5 minute miles, two of them, right? That's
Big.
blazing fast. It's pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
And that guy ran his 26th mile probably just faster than any of the 2 miles that I ran, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous fast.
According to this, his average pace is 13.2 miles per hour over the course of the thing.
So fast.
As an average pace.
Now let's be honest too. He
insane.
also weighed about 100 pounds, right? So they're skinny.
Oh,
those long distance
he's
runners,
a tiny guy.
tiny,
yeah.
skinny, short guys, right? The 100-meter guys. These guys are built. Because Shane Thompson is huge, right?
Yeah, he looks exactly like you think the guy who runs a marathon would look. But he said it in 2019 when so that was 5 years ago. He was 34 when he said it.
Well,
Like it's just crazy to me.
yeah, it's good.
But good. Good. Everyone's getting so fast. It's insane.
Everyone is getting so fast. The U.S. women beat Germany today 1-0 in the semifinals. So they're going to be in the finals. They're going to be playing for a gold medal. There's that. The U.S. men's national basketball team destroyed Brazil 122 to, I don't know, 80 something.
Right? Crush them.
Yeah, I was watching that game for the most of it. The very first, I didn't watch the first half of the first quarter, but I watched it from then on. About halfway through the first quarter, I tune in, and the very first thing I see, and this is just me being grumpy. The very first thing I see is LeBron James stealing a ball, picking it up, and going down the sideline. He jumps in the air, lands with both feet. Both feet hit the ground before the ball came out of his hands, but they didn't call it traveling. And I was like,
hey,
wait a minute.
It's FIBA rules, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, international, there's no traveling. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something I learned this year. I did not know that you could touch the ball in the cylinder in FIBA.
Yes.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah.
It's apparently it's only USA basketball that has this rule
Correct.
about the cylinder.
Yeah.
I say to hell with that. I'm on board. Let's let Wembanyama just pluck them out of the basket before they get through the net.
Here's what here's what they're worried about. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Let's no rules, right? I agree. However, here's what they're worried about. You're gonna go find a guy who's 8 feet tall, right? Who's got 3 foot long arms,
put
right?
him right in the middle,
and he's gonna stick his hand up under the basket, up through the basket, and no one's going to score.
Well, hold on now. I do agree. You can't go through the basket in this.
Well,
in
he can
FIBA.
just if he's got an 8 foot, if he's
tall enough,
he'll just reach over the top and just smack everything away.
Swat it off. Yeah.
You just stand there because you're allowing a zone defense anymore, right? That doesn't, you know what I mean? If you go back to man to man,
well, hold on now.
I
The
could do
NBA
it.
has 3 in the NBA has 3 in the key. So you have
Defensive
to
three,
you have
correct.
to have you have to get out. You have to have a little mobility to get out of the paint.
But as long as he's guarding a guy, it doesn't have to be his guy. A guy.
Well, but you still have to be like, what is it called? Defined guarding.
I get it.
Like placement or something like that.
Sure.
Like
But
you can't just be near him. You have to be like playing him.
But as we know, the NBA doesn't, call everything.
Well, for sure.
Strictly.
That's why I say just let him.
Just take away the rule. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but no one's going to score then. That's why the NBA doesn't like that.
I would love it if you could swat. Okay, then let's leave the cylinder thing, but let's allow people to swat the ball on the way down.
I agree with that. I'm okay with that. Anytime, as long as it hasn't gone through the basket. Yeah,
right?
That's
like,
fine.
Steph Curry would never make a 3 again.
No, you just because you
Joel Embiid would just be sending them into the fifth row every time.
Yeah, let me wait right here as it's coming down. Whack. Yeah, it's true.
Or, actually, you'd probably just catch it. He's probably got plenty big enough hands.
You just have to learn to shoot it high and off the glass. Is what you'd have to do.
Yeah, you gotta rainbow arc it.
Yeah, and it would change the game. That rule would change the way people shoot, the way people play the game. It would.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that. But anyway. So other news, by the way, if you're in baseball, the Houston Astros, Framber Valdez was 1 out away from a no hitter.
That sucks.
And Texas's Corey Seager hit a 2-run homer to make the score 4-2. And he had to leave the game. He didn't get a finish even. They didn't even let him finish the game. They brought in a reliever.
What was the score?
It was 4-0. 4-0 Astros. And then
it became a tight game all of a sudden.
4-2 with 2 outs in the ninth. They didn't let him finish one more batter? Come on, man. Let him get a complete game.
Nah,
I don't agree with that.
I hate the Astros, so I'm okay with anybody who wants to rain on their parade.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let's talk about the sensation that's taking hold of the Olympics. By the way, the viral sensation, and that is the Turkish. Well, first of all, let's just say it was a pairs shooting, right? It was a team shooting. It was a couples, or I don't know what they call it, mixed doubles, or I don't know what they call it. I didn't look at the event, but it was a shooting competition with Turkey, and Yusuf Durkits, I think is how they pronounce it.
Sounds right.
Yeah, and he the way he shoots became a viral sensation. One hand in his pocket. He doesn't have shooting glasses. He's got little earplugs in. You can see him in there. Somebody was saying, "Oh, he doesn't use hearing protection." Yeah, he did. But let's be honest, you really don't need it with these little air pistols,
Yeah,
right? They
these
don't make much noise. But it's just the casual way, and she's doing it too, his teammate. It's just the casual way that they shoot that brought this on. They win the silver, right, in this doubles competition, and it just looks like there's hope for everybody, right? It was like when the U.S. men's curling team, right, won their medal in the Olympics. There was hope for every man because
it made you think, oh crap,
I
there's
could be an
something I
Olympian.
could be good at.
I could be an Olympian, right? And
It's true.
this kind of what it looked like. But what it spawned was memes, right? Because of the way it's so casual looking when he shoots, it spawned memes. Here's one of them.
Oh, I sent that one to Cassie. Yeah,
This one is one of the best ones
Pulp
that I've
Fiction.
seen. Yeah, that Pulp Fiction meme is one of the best ones I've seen, and I laughed so hard. Not the best one I've seen. I'm going to be honest with you, because then there's this one, right?
I seen that one. I
With
sent that
bugs.
one to Cassie.
Yeah.
Too. I think we all saw the same one.
Okay, wait. This is the one. This was the best one I saw.
You wiped off. Threw the gun in the river.
The Olympic Committee was shocked but decided not to ask questions. And I was like, yeah, that's probably right. He's probably an assassin. He probably does this for a living. I don't know.
I saw one that said, if anybody messes with this guy's dog, we're going to get 4 movies out of this dude.
I've seen the John Wick one. It's like got John Wick
Yeah.
pointing at him and he's pointing back. Yeah. But the memes were great. And I was like, yeah, that's it. It's just the casualness of the way he shoots. They're both doing it, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's how they're taught to shoot. But you've seen all these people with their specialized, glasses and their, special hearing protection and their, shooting attire. And they're, for God's sake, they're wearing a T-shirt. He's got regular glasses and those foam earplugs, and he's just shooting away. No
It
problem.
reminds me of the movie Tin Cup when what's her name's character comes to get lessons from Roy, the main character. She has all that gear and practice stuff,
Right.
and he just takes
Takes it all off.
away.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't
don't
need
need
that.
it.
You're not gonna need that.
Nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it reminds me. But yeah, I remember people. The first memes I started hearing about the shooting competitions was that the U.S. number one in mass shootings, not a medalist in the Olympics.
You think we
How is this possible?
You think we could find something that's not even? It's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny.
It's sad funny. Is what
It
it
is,
is.
it
but,
is.
But still, yeah. Once this guy's picture got out, and I
Yeah.
was just like, man, I think anybody could. Not anybody because he's talented, but I think
Right.
anybody could get the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean there are, but let's be honest. There's a lot of events that they put breakdancing in this year, right? I mean,
And skateboarding.
yeah, and there's
Which I'll tell you,
surfing.
skateboarding is a.
Skateboarding is not easy.
I give him credit because anybody who's ever tried to get on a skateboard and just simply do an ollie,
Right.
you learn real quick you can break an arm
Yeah,
very easily.
and they have surfing in there this year too. So there's
Surfing's really, really, really interesting too.
Yeah.
Breakdancing, I mean, I can't breakdance, so I
no, I
can't
can't.
talk crap.
But it's not a sport.
It's just- But
Let's
the
be
problem
honest.
is it's as athletic
it can
as
be. Yeah.
what's it called? Well, hold on. As what is the winter one? Figure skating. You're dancing and you're twirling and you're spinning to music on ice.
Yeah.
And you're graded on your grace and poise as
Okay.
well as your execution.
But-
blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the criteria is for grading
I don't either.
breakdancers.
I have no
I guess
idea.
is the big problem.
That's
Like-
we're gonna have to look that
Like
up.
you know a mess up in figure skating. Like
When
when
you
you
see
see it,
it,
you go,
yeah.
oh,
Well, here's the
but
thing.
you wouldn't necessarily know it in breakdancing.
Here's the thing: if they were breakdancing on ice, on skates, that would be different, right? Skating, I can't just stand up and make it around the ring. I can do that. I can stand up and
No,
make it around the
hold
ring,
on.
but I can't. But I can't spin like that. I can't
What
go.
would be impressive is if Tanya Harding could do that 720 spin on asphalt
I don't know.
because
Would it be?
there's a ton of resistance.
I suppose it's. But think about the lift you have to push off of the ice
Uh-huh.
to get yourself, into the air.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And
Yeah, me
and then to
neither.
spin and land without falling on your ass. I can't
I
do that.
I think I have actually fallen over the course of this conversation more into agreeing that it is more an Olympic sport than shooting is.
It
It is more,
definitely more.
it's more athletic than shooting is.
Yes, it is. I'm agreeing with that. Yeah, it is definitely more than shooting, or I mean, I don't know. There's probably some other things.
Honestly,
that-
there's a lot of track and field events where
Archery.
it's a single burst of energy versus breakdancing, which
Right.
is sustained
It is.
energy and
but
creativity or whatever. I don't know.
but I'll make it my goal in life to figure out what the breakdancing
Criteria is.
criteria is for next show, because I don't know, because I'm like, what is the, and is it like gymnastics where you have a degree of difficulty, and diving, right, the degree of difficulty, because you're gonna do these moves, right, and then you get downgraded from there, or I don't know.
According to this, it says that there are 6 criteria: creativity, personality, technique, versatility, performance skills, and musicality. Technique, performance, and creativity make up 60% of the overall score, with the other 3 accounting for 40%. So technique, performance, and creativity are the 3 things. Now, I don't know what good technique looks like.
I don't either. Right? If you're spinning on the cardboard that you threw down, then
Yeah.
do you have to bring your own cardboard? That's the question.
No, they supply the cardboard.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
good.
when you go to a wrestling meet, they have
Oh,
mats there
right.
for you.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. All right. I
I really like the idea that they're doing it in like the back alley behind the venue, and it's just like
Yeah.
a bunch of judges and there's some cardboard there.
right. That's the way it should be. I feel like they should just they're somewhere at the mall, right, in the middle of the mall, just break out into a
Yeah.
breakdance battle. I don't know. College football's coming up, right? And we need. I made a top 25 list. You made a top 25 list. The coaches poll is out.
Yeah.
And here are, by the way, all 3 of them.
Nice.
So let's talk about this ranking real quick, shall we?
Yeah.
The coaches poll, who is probably the most reputable of these 3. I mean, nobody knows for sure. Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon at 3, Texas, Alabama. This is the top 5, and it's coincidentally is your top 5.
Hey, what are the odds?
It is the same teams in my top 5 in a different order.
Yeah.
I feel like Ohio State's better than Georgia at this point. They're going to be anyway.
I think I need them to prove it.
Well, and that's true. They'll have a chance. So
I mean, that's all I need to see from last year. They had a chance to prove to me they were the best team in college football by beating Michigan, and they can do that.
they struggled with Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, they struggled. They almost lost to Penn State at Penn State. If Penn
Yeah.
State didn't decide to just give that game away.
Well, Penn State.
So-
That's what they do.
But the thing about Ohio State is that, like, in the past couple of years, you've had like legacy quarterbacks, or you've had people that you really know and things like that. There's not a ton. They lost their top 2 wide receivers. They lost their top 3 cornerbacks. They lost their top safety. They lost their top 2 linebackers. They
Yep.
lost their top 2 defensive pieces. Their
Yep.
defensive line pieces. They lost 3 linemen, a quarterback, a running back.
Yep.
Like, they lost a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, all their replacements are 5 stars or 5-star transfers as well. But I don't know any of these guys. Like, a lot of the guys from last, like, I knew Marvin Harrison was good. I knew that going
Yep.
into last year.
Yeah.
Like, I knew not CJ Stroud. Oh my gosh, what was the quarterback last year's name? Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. I knew he was good. I knew they had some really good defensive players on their team last year. Like, I just knew these guys. I don't know anybody from this year's team outside of a couple transfers that are just names that sound familiar from other places. So
Right.
we'll see. But that's why that's the only reason I put Georgia over Ohio State, because Georgia just carries just a little. They tend to win the games that they're supposed to most of the time.
Well, Georgia
Most of the time.
Georgia lost the tight end that was all of their offense. I mean,
It was the majority of their
Brock
offense,
Bowers was
yes.
the guy, and so he's gone. So that's why I feel like Georgia's going to
And
do
if they
this.
weren't throwing it to Brock Bowers, they were throwing it to Lad McConkey,
Yeah, and he's gone too.
and he's gone too.
Yeah. So I feel like Ohio State has this a really good habit of replacing players, and I think they're better at it than Georgia is. Georgia's good, and they're self-fulfilling, these teams at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of why I swapped them. You got Oregon at third, or you got Oregon, Texas, Alabama. So does the Coaches Poll. I have Alabama, Oregon, Texas.
Yeah.
I will not give Texas credit until they prove in the SEC that they're capable of being in the SEC.
They beat Alabama last year.
Yep.
And which was
At
the best
home.
team in the
No,
SEC.
on the road.
And,
It was on. Is that
oh,
Alabama?
it was on the road last
It was
year.
on the road last year.
And they lost questionably
At home.
to Alabama the year before.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, they're 2-0 against the best SEC team.
And that was
over the last 2 years, or one of the best SEC teams. I guess Georgia.
But last year was
studs.
let's admit last year was a down year for Alabama.
Possibly, but
Okay.
they're still like a down year for Alabama is
11-1.
still college football playoff.
10-2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they still managed to take this down team, and
Right.
in my opinion, 2 years in a row they beat them.
Right.
So that's the only reason they got the nod over Alabama, because they have the win over Alabama.
Okay. That's
and
fine.
and there's no other team other than LSU that I think they're going to walk into this season and struggle with.
Okay.
I think, I'm actually not 100% sure about their schedule.
Who, Texas?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. No, yeah. They play Florida at home. That would be a tough one on the road. They play Georgia at home. That would be a tough one on the road. They play Michigan on the road, but guess what? Michigan's barely got a coach.
Yeah.
That's a whole another bag of worms. But yeah, they don't play Alabama. They don't play LSU. They don't play Ole Miss.
Right. No, they don't.
Yeah,
But
so they're good.
Yeah, they play at Michigan. That might be difficult early in the season. Hard to say.
It's true. Could be sneaky.
They play Oklahoma. That's a rivalry, right?
Yep.
They play Georgia. Okay. Play Florida. Yeah, and the home game's set up well, but they also play Texas A&M last game of the season on the road. Texas A&M is probably a top 25 team. We'll see, but they're a team capable of beating you.
But usually by that point in the season, their players have given up
Maybe.
because the postseason's not within reach. I would say that the toughest game on their schedule is either Oklahoma or Michigan, and I don't think it's Michigan just because of how much Michigan lost.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's pretty close to reloading at a lot of positions or the next guy up. And you've seen those next guys. So I think that Oklahoma's probably the toughest game on their schedule. I think Kentucky's easy. Arkansas is easy. I think Mississippi State's going to be easy. And then, of course, they have a couple of cake non-conference games in there against UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, and Colorado State. Gosh, they must love being in the SEC where they can fluff their schedule with an extra nobody.
But the way I felt about this schedule when I saw it was you don't play anybody that's maybe top 20. I mean, they're top 20 at best. Georgia, okay, there's one.
Yeah, they play Georgia. They play Michigan. Michigan's a top 20 team to start the season, and then I think they'll drop out of it.
Yeah.
Oklahoma always ends up in that 10 to 15 range if they don't go higher.
Right.
A&M, they try and start them high.
Right. And
They never stay there.
Kentucky's just outside the top 25. Florida's probably just outside the top 25.
Their schedule is softer.
It's pretty soft.
They should be fine.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and they're going to win a lot of games, but I'm not saying they're not. But you got to prove it. Go prove it that you can win at Arkansas on November 16th, right? That you don't drop a game like that. If you drop a game like that,
that's fair. But coming into this, they've proven enough to me against one of the best teams in the SEC.
But let's be honest,
especially when Alabama is reloading everything.
Let's be honest, though. If that's your sole game, you have Oklahoma and Alabama, and everybody else is bullshit on your schedule when you're in the Big 12. Let's be honest. Right? You've got 2 games a year to play. You got to get up for 2 games. Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
Then that's pretty easy. I mean, let's be honest. That's not easy to beat Alabama, but I'm saying it's easier when those are the only 2 games you got to worry about.
I get what you're saying, but the point is I can't base them on the resume they don't have. I have to base them on the resume they do have.
Well,
and the resume they do have is that they played one of the best teams in the SEC, one of the perennial powerhouses in the nation, 2 games in a row.
Sure.
Tough as nails, winning one on the road, losing one at home, questionably.
Yep.
And also, to boot, and we talk about this all the time, what are preseason rankings? I don't think it's where they are right now. It's where I think people will be towards the end of the season.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and they won
And
at Alabama last year, 34-24, right? Alabama was ranked third in the country at the time. They beat a ranked Kansas team handily. Kansas was 24th. They lost to
yeah,
Oklahoma in the Red River
also
Rivalry,
Oklahoma.
34-30. Then
One of those ones, man.
the only other ranked teams they played were Kansas State, who they beat in overtime, and Oklahoma State. So
Yeah, that's
they're not.
that's the
It's
same
not a
complaint. That's the same complaint year over year. Yeah.
right. What I'm saying is your schedule last year wasn't great. You got up to play Alabama and you beat them, but you didn't beat Oklahoma. Who? So
Yeah.
if you had gone unbeaten, then I would give you a hell of a lot more credit from last year. And you lost to Washington in the, and I don't think Washington was that good.
All
I don't
right.
think
So
Washington was a playoff team.
here's the question for you. All right. Alabama plays at Wisconsin, Georgia at home, at Tennessee, LSU on the road, at Oklahoma, and then Auburn at home. All right. That's Alabama's schedule with a freshy head coach.
Yeah.
All right. So knowing their schedule, all right, knowing Texas's schedule, would you put Alabama behind who is on mine? So my sixth is Ole Miss. Would you put Alabama behind Ole Miss?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I wouldn't either. And so knowing their schedule and knowing Texas' schedule, do you think they're going to end the season in a better position than Texas?
What?
With
Maybe
these tough games on their, I mean,
what
no,
I will tell you is,
I will no. I'm not asking maybe. I'm asking, do you think they will? Because if you think they will, then yes, they should be ahead of them. If
Yeah.
you don't think they will, then no. Because
Here's-
I think they're going to drop LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia.
there are
I
six.
think they're going to lose 3 games this year.
There are 6 games. There are 5 games. There are 5 games in a 6-game stretch for Alabama that's going to decide the whole season. They play at Wisconsin,
Yeah, that's big.
Georgia, Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
a
2
gimme.
weeks later.
Vanderbilt's a gimme. Oh,
Vanderbilt's
it's
a
in
gimme.
7 games. Sorry, Vanderbilt's a gimme. South Carolina is kind of terrible. Tennessee, Missouri, LSU in a row. 2 of those on the road.
Yeah.
If they win those games on the
Yeah.
road, they're going to go unbeaten. There's no chance. They play at Oklahoma later, but if they win, if they can beat at Wisconsin, at Tennessee, and at LSU, they're going to beat Oklahoma.
Well, so
Um,
here's the thing. I don't even think the at Wisconsin's like I think
Wisconsin's
that's
a
I
pretty
think
good
that's
football team.
I agree. I think that's a losable game.
It
but
is.
the Georgia playing out Alabama is much more threatening than playing at Wisconsin.
It is, you're right.
So they could easily have 2 losses before they ever even get to playing Tennessee.
You're absolutely
and then you're asking these 5 stars who have national championship aspirations, who are now on the outside looking in because Texas has a cake schedule walking down the stretch.
Yeah.
Like, you're asking them to refocus up, but it's not Nick Saban saying it. It's this dude who just got here from Washington. Like,
Right.
it's all very different. I don't trust their ability to stay, and
Okay.
that's why I put
And
them behind.
and that's fine.
Behind that, I don't think they're worse.
Right.
I just don't think they're gonna pull it off the way Texas is gonna pull it off this year.
Here's what I'll tell you. You could throw Alabama, Oregon, and Texas into a bag and pull out a number, pull them out without even knowing who it is. Just pull out like 3, 4, 5, and put them in any
Yeah.
order, and I don't care. They're fine.
I
That's fine.
honestly think you could probably, and when this is the way I have my stuff ranked, I honestly think you could put all of the top 5 in a bag, or all have them all play each other, and you'd probably end up with a pretty 500 record from everyone.
I've been an Oregon fan for a long time, and I'm going to tell you that I don't trust Oregon. I don't trust Oregon to win all of. Yeah.
You're perfectly allowed to, but over the last couple of years,
they've been good.
We have gotten up
But
for a lot of the games we're supposed to.
You
So,
lost twice to Washington last year. Should have
I
beat
hear
them
you.
probably at least one of those times, if not both.
I hear you.
That bothers me. There's you struggle.
Beat Ohio
at
State a couple
times.
years ago. So
You
the most
did?
recent, the most
we
recent,
got one.
The most
We
recent,
have one win
the most
over Ohio
recent.
State.
Okay, I hear
Historically.
what you're saying, right?
One.
Okay, so like in that same jumble, you take all the top 5 teams and they all play each other. Who
Right.
comes out on top?
Ohio State. That's why I have them at number 1.
Okay.
That's the
All right,
reason
let's
I have
move
them at
on
number 1.
past the top 5
Okay.
because I'm sick and tired of talking about them.
Okay. So you got the rest of the top 10, which are kind of a jumble of teams. I mean, it kind of all have the same teams, to be honest with
Michigan,
you.
Penn State, Florida
Yeah.
State are all.
The coaches
all
poll puts Notre Dame at 7, and we don't have them
Yeah.
that high.
The coaches full of crap.
Yeah, Notre Dame has a fairly easy schedule, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what is driving that. And they have, Riley Leonard, right? Isn't that who they picked up? Isn't that at Notre Dame? I believe that's true.
Sounds right.
They picked up Riley Leonard, who was at Duke last year. And I don't know that
With Notre Dame, we're going to find out though, because they play Texas A&M to start. They got Purdue.
Texas A&M.
They have Florida State. They have
Yeah,
Stanford,
yeah.
and not that Stanford's that good, but they always play them tough. And then they
Right.
have USC to close the season. So between USC, Florida State, Purdue, and A&M, 3 of those on the road.
Well, Purdue's not
Yeah,
that good,
we're gonna
but
we're gonna no, they're
yeah.
not that good, but it's a road game.
It is.
It's not, and that's not an easy place to play.
My issue with them is this: at Texas A&M, okay, that's one of those games. Northern Illinois at Purdue, right? Versus Miami of Ohio, versus Louisville, versus Stanford.
Louisville is a dangerous. Louisville's, I got you.
Yeah,
Louisville's a very dangerous.
It's
team.
one of 8 straight home games or neutral site games.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm only seeing 3. Because then they play at Georgia Tech, at Navy.
It's not it's neutral site. Georgia Tech, Navy are neutral site. Army's a neutral site. All those are neutral. So they're going to play 8 straight home or neutral
where's
site.
The site? Where's the site?
Oh, I don't know where they're playing at, to be honest with you. I can't tell you. But I don't know where they're playing those games. But Navy and Army, they're going to win. Georgia Tech, doesn't matter. Those 3 are wins.
MetLife or Notre Dame, Navy.
Yeah.
So
those 3 are wins. Florida State's a decent team, but they're playing them at home. Louisville's a decent team. They're playing them at home. Texas A&M on the road. If they and USC is getting a lot more credit than I think they should. I don't think USC is that good. I think USC will struggle this year, but that's just me talking. They're going to be okay. They're going to win 8-9 games, but they're not going to be competing.
Yankee Stadium versus Army, by the way. So 2 games in New York, which let's say it's a far cry from Indiana.
It's closer for Army than it is for Notre Dame.
It's closer for Army. It's closer for Navy.
But it's Army. Come on, man.
No, I'm not saying they're going to win those games. All right, but those are when you say they're neutral site. It's not neutral site in the way that Georgia plays in the Chick-fil-A kickoff classic in Atlanta. It's not the same. They actually have to travel.
Have you ever seen a team that had 3 road games on their schedule? 3. I've never seen this. 3.
I don't know that I've ever
true road games.
I think a better way to say that is I don't think I've ever seen a team play 2 neutral site games in the regular.
There's 3 in this regional season. They've got 3. Well, Georgia Tech, Navy, and Army are all neutral site games.
Is Georgia Tech in Atlanta?
It's probably playing at which is where they're from. So it's like a home game, but still, you've got 3 neutral site games and only 3 true road games. Come on, man. The NCAA needs to step into that. That's not okay. I'll be honest with you. That is so nitpicky because
this is not like they're playing. They need to step in when Georgia plays in Atlanta. That's what they need to step in on.
Well,
right? Georgia Tech is playing in Atlanta. Like that, they need to step in on that. They don't need to step in because Notre Dame is traveling to New York City 2 different times over the course of the season.
I get it. I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying is step in and say that everyone has to play 6 home, 6 road games. Let's just why not? Let's do that. Why is that a thing? Why is that wrong? 6 road, 6 home. Everybody's equal that way. It's equal and even. That way we have a true indication of whether you're any good, rather than playing 9 home games or 9 neutral site games and 3 true road games. Come on. Nobody else has this schedule. Nobody else in the NCAA has this schedule. They do not.
No. There's no team that isn't a service academy that isn't an independent. This
is an easy schedule for Notre Dame. I'm going to be honest. Texas A&M at the beginning, USC at the end. The rest of it is okay. You can tell me Florida State's great if you want to. They're okay, but I don't think they're great.
I'm going to tell you right now, Florida State is better than Notre Dame.
Maybe we're going to find out.
I mean, we will find out, especially by that point.
Notre Dame
but to start the season, I think Florida State is better than Notre Dame.
Notre Dame will have a loss by then. By the time they play Florida State, so it won't matter.
I think they're going to have 2. I think they're going to drop A&M, and I think they're going to drop either Purdue, Louisville. Yeah, Purdue or Louisville. One of those 2.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think Texas A&M's that good.
See, Purdue's a great example. Why aren't you arguing that one? That's more of a neutral site for them. It's right up the street.
No,
they have to travel to Army, and they bus there on the same day, and they bus home on the same night.
Then
that is a car ride up the road.
Then we have to talk about Ohio State's schedule. Because they're going to play Akron, and they're going to play Toledo.
That's for dang sure. I get what you're getting at, but my point is that I am not upset about them playing at Army and Navy in New York City. But I'm not even upset about them traveling to Atlanta, which is well outside of their boundaries and their normal travel territories to play a game. So I'm not bothered by that.
I get it.
Those are tough road games.
No, they're not. What I'm saying, if you're playing Georgia in Atlanta,
no. Hold on. Stop. Timeout. Quick timeout. The teams you're playing aren't tough.
They're
The
terrible.
traveling and playing is tough. It's not like you're traveling up the street. That's what I meant by it's a tough road game. Not a tough team on the road. It's
if you're a top 25 team, these are easy gimmies. Georgia
In
Tech,
theory.
Navy, and Army all playing at neutral site. They're gimmies. Why aren't you playing at Army, at Navy, and at Georgia Tech? Why? Because you know you're going to win anyway. Oh, and I get it, and I understand that. But this shouldn't be allowed to be this many. If you're going to have a neutral site game, it has to be one of your home games. You got to give it up, right?
I don't think it matters.
I think it does.
I think we're both talking about Notre Dame more than we will be talking about Notre Dame in 16 weeks, because they will have 3 losses and they won't matter and they won't be relevant, and all this neutral site hullabaloo will not be important anymore.
And it won't. That's what I'm saying. They're going to be terrible anyway.
I might have them pegged for 4 losses: A&M, Purdue, or Louisville, Florida State, and USC.
Yeah.
That's assuming USC gets their crap together.
I don't think
USC
is going to be that good.
You never know with them.
And by the end of the season, if they've got nothing to play for, Caleb Williams sits out. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, he's not there. I know it. I get it. But know what I'm
Caleb
saying.
Williams never set out a regular season game. So.
Well, okay, all right.
Which is what we're talking about. So
yeah, but I'm saying if it mattered to somebody would sit out at the end of the season. So
yeah.
But I don't know. I don't like their schedule's easy to me. That is not a hard schedule. It is not like a Big Ten schedule. You know what I mean? That it's not like Purdue, who probably has the hardest schedule in the country, right? Purdue plays Notre Dame, Oregon State, Wisconsin, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Mm-hmm. Come on, those are not easy. Those are tough football games. Purdue has one of the hardest schedules in football. You know, even
and that's why Purdue's not in any of our top 25s.
Oh, that's true. They're not going to be either. Yeah. It's one of those things where you look at the schedule.
Just say what you say every time. Join a conference.
They
NCAA,
should. Why
do
don't
something?
they?
And that's all it is. Like that's
they?
all. That's all that you need done.
You know, I understand why the service
because they don't have to yet. No one is forcing them to, and until somebody forces them to, the NCAA can barely control the pay situation, let alone force one of the biggest teams in football history to all of a sudden change their pace.
All this expansion, they couldn't find a conference to join. And secondly, if you're one of those conferences, stop playing them, stop scheduling them, and they won't be a factor.
Massive for sales.
They won't be a factor in the NCAA.
Massive for sales.
That's great, but if you just do it 1 year, nobody schedules them for 1 year, they will be gone. They will have to join a conference or they will be done.
I agree. But it's still a business.
You own everything.
If you're Ohio State, you still want to make money.
And I get it, but you can schedule somebody else. It's not like that game is going to make or break your financial budget for the year, right? Because you're not playing them anyway.
I agree, but you
Army
want that
is
Catholic money.
For Army.
You want that Catholic money.
Yeah. Army and Navy wants that money. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we all get it. This isn't a mystery. Yeah. Wanting them to do it and thinking that they will are two very different.
It doesn't matter. Hold on. You have to force them to do it.
Hold on. I said that piss poorly. I'll retract that. Wanting them to do it and thinking that it's realistic that it ever happens ever in your lifetime, in my lifetime, are two very different things. So I'm not going to beat myself over the head trying to say they need to do this, because no one to this point in 30 years of independence has made them do it.
Right.
It's only become more and more lucrative. It's only more and more lucrative for them, the fact they can choose these things. It's just perfect for them. It's a perfect situation for them. And honestly, it's not that bad having this villain sitting out there for everyone to pick on. It's a good thing to have this random floating abstract villain who doesn't tied to anybody, who you can always be like, that's the problem. Why were they in the college football playoff? What is this? Who are they playing? Why is going on? It's a big distraction from all the other real issues in college football.
Yeah.
But either way, they're overrated in the coaches poll. We all know that. 7th, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Florida State's at 7. I have Utah a lot higher than you guys do. I think Utah's a great football team. That's a dangerous football team.
The hell did I put Utah? Did I not put Utah on my top?
Oh,
okay, they are.
I am at 6th. And
I don't know. They lost a couple people, but they do bring back 13. Cam Rising. So
yeah. I don't know. I think Utah's much better than the Florida State. Remains to be seen. I think once you get past the top 5, I would be hard. You could tell me the next 10 teams. Any of them could be number 6, and I could
Yeah.
probably buy into it. You know what I mean? It's going to be that kind of a grab bag this year. Penn State might be the best team of those teams, maybe Utah, but I don't know for sure. I don't know until they
And LSU or
LSU
Tennessee any given year
could be,
can get up and do something,
could
but
be.
I just don't
I
trust that
just don't
either of
know.
them really will.
Right? We get
And
down.
Clemson's down there at 14. It's like,
I don't think
geez,
Clemson is.
Could be.
I have Clemson at
I know.
16.
I think they're washed. I think their
Yeah.
season's past. But let's say it's not, and Dabo Swinney has a resurgence because
Right.
Alabama's now no longer as good, at least based on my theories. All of a sudden, it's
Right.
like Clemson's back in the picture. You know,
What do
it's
you,
tough.
what do you, okay, so who's a team that's not on this list that you, not in your top 25, that could be a team in the top 25? That could be a surprise
Florida.
team? Florida. Okay. You go with Florida.
Yeah, they're always a team that's they always try and put them in the top 10 or top 15 to start the season. They always try and give them every bit of love that they possibly can. I don't believe it. This year they're not doing it. But the fact that they're underrating them is almost more nerve-wracking than them rating them high.
Yeah.
So
Florida's,
they come out of nowhere.
that's interesting. That's an interesting pick, Florida. Florida's always right there. Miami's another one of those teams. You have them in your top 25. I don't.
Barely.
But I feel like that's a team that could do something. But again, every year I feel like they could do something and they don't. They've been a letdown.
Colorado would be another team that,
No.
if you believe their trajectory, I get what I literally didn't even get through saying anything. You went, no. Yeah. If you believe their trajectory,
Right.
if they even double their win totals from last year, it probably puts them in the top 25.
Right.
Even at 8 wins, right? Like
Right.
starts putting you in that realm of 20 to 25. I don't think they will, but it could happen. In theory, they recruited well. They got 3 5-stars. They grabbed a whole bunch of transfer portal talent. Like, in
Right.
theory, it could all balance out.
Sure.
I think they have leadership issues, but
Liberty. Go play Liberty, Colorado. Let's see if you beat Liberty, and then we'll talk.
Liberty was a team that was on somebody else's mock
Yep.
top 25, and I was like, I would not put them in.
It's not a bad football team. They're not bad at all. They're just, Oregon was way better than they were last year in the bowl game. But the bowl game is interesting too because bowl games are bowl games, and it's hard to really judge. But Liberty was a good football team, and that's a good football team. I would not want to play them if I was in their conference, which is Conference USA.
I just rewatched that whole Liberty Oregon game, and they came out so hot.
Yeah.
And got up 7-0 on Oregon.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, is this really going to happen?
Right.
And then it didn't. And then it didn't at all. And then Oregon rattled off 30 points or whatever it was. And it was like, okay, let's all settle down.
Right. I want to know.
That was good.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting year. Stanford and Cal in the ACC. That's gonna be interesting. The Pac-12 has 2 teams, which I don't know why they're not in the Mountain West. They just don't have 4 teams.
You and I have a pretty big disparity on NC State.
I don't think
actually all 3 of us do.
I think NC State is okay. I'll see. I'm kind of in the middle between the two of you. See?
Yeah. I think they're a little better. You think they're kind of a little worse, and then they think that they're even
I think
worse.
Arizona's a little better than we think, because Arizona at the end of last year is not a team I would want to play. No, not at all.
They bring back Fafita, and they are in this. When I knew I wanted to put them in, so I wrote down all the teams that I wanted to put in, and then I started placing them, and there were a team that I was like, I have to put them in. I think I kicked out Florida to put them in because I was like, no, I can't keep them out.
Arizona's schedule has a 3-game. Well, it has 2 games. They play at Kansas State and at Utah. Games 3 and 4, right? That'll decide the season. They play Colorado at home, and everybody else is kind of, come on, West Virginia, UCF, Houston, TCU, Arizona State. Okay, they could probably win all those. But those 2 games on the road
at BYU is
it's not easy.
It's no slouch. I don't think it's a. I think it's a game you should win. But
the good news
that's a tricky one.
The good news is the Kansas State Utah games, they have a week off in between. So actually extra days because they play on Friday against Kansas State. So they'll have an extra day too. They'll have 15 days off. That's good. I don't know. I think USC, I don't think they're as good as, the coaches poll has them 23. You have them at 17. I got them at 21. Okay. Iowa is one of those teams. I think Iowa needs to be on this list because they're going to win 10-9. I have Oklahoma State on here. You guys don't. Oh no,
Really,
the coaches poll has them
you
at
get into the
18.
bottom. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
get into the bottom 10, and it's really just kind of like a,
yeah,
just put them anywhere in there. It'll probably
yeah.
be fine.
And I think Wisconsin will be better than people think, although they are in the Big Ten and they do have a tough schedule. Um, they're always good, and it's always good. It's a tough place to play late in the season, right? When it gets cold and icky, and that Camp Randall Stadium's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy this year. I think it's going to be an interesting year, and it's going to a lot of different things. Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, and all the Pac-12 teams in the Big Ten. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It will truly be a better indication. Although I will say this, there are a lot of teams like in the SEC and in the Big Ten that aren't going to play each other for 7 or 8 years. Um,
Yeah.
that's an issue, right? When you get to avoid Alabama for 7 years, that's good for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
um,
I was telling
yeah,
Cassie about that the other day, and she couldn't wrap her head around it. I'm like, there's
right,
so many teams, and you guys have 4 non-conference games.
yeah, yeah,
It's like you're only going to play 8 teams a year, and a handful of them are your in
yeah.
division.
Six or seven of them.
So
7 of them are in divisions. You get one non-divisional conference game, and
yeah, something
it's
like that.
yeah, it's. But the Big Ten's the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all just going to turn. Well, then that's why I'm happy for the expanded playoffs, right?
yeah,
Because although based on our rankings right here, we both have Ohio State ahead of Oregon, which means Oregon will be one of the first non-conference champions in.
yes, yes. That is
Oregon
true.
and Alabama will both be
And so will
your
Texas.
5, 6 or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So
Utah would be the
kind of
Big
interesting.
12. Florida State would be the ACC.
Yep.
And then you'd have Ohio State and Georgia. Those would be your 4 major conference champions, right?
Yeah.
Who else? What is it? What's the other Power 5 conference I'm missing? Um,
Well, they're not doing the Pac-12.
right, there's no Pac-12. That's right. So you'd have the next
It's the
highest
top 4. Yeah.
conference champion from one of those. I don't even have another team in here that isn't from one of those
Yeah,
conferences.
it says the 4 highest ranked conference champions will win the
Right.
top 4 seats. So that means
Right.
Oregon will at the very earliest be
Best
5,
fifth, right?
fifth. Yeah,
Yeah.
if Ohio State is that much better.
And we have 12
Um,
teams, right?
12. Yeah.
So Oregon would play
I'm
the
so
12.
jacked for
Oregon
this.
would play the 12th team,
Yeah.
right? That's in, and at this point, I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm looking at you, Tennessee or LSU, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Missouri. I have Notre Dame there in that ballpark too. I don't know. That'd be interesting. It'll be interesting. It's going to be that the 12-team playoffs is going to be more interesting for sure, and that you get a home game in the first
Yeah.
round is crazy, right?
Well, here, this is an interesting quirk that's part of the rules. It says the other 8 teams will play in the first round, with the higher seeds hosting the lower seeds either on campus or at other sites designated by the higher seeded institution.
You could play somewhere else.
So if let's say you're Georgia and let's say Alabama wins the SEC and you're number 5 Georgia, right?
Right.
You can choose to play in Atlanta,
You could.
assuming there's not scheduling conflicts, right? You could
Right.
do that. I don't see why on freaking earth you would,
Right.
unless you're a small school who just happened to like squeak in.
Right.
Like if you're NC State, why wouldn't you play at where the Panthers play?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, and 8 would be the
Yeah.
teams that would have that authority. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't know.
Kind of quirky, but I'm excited for it. 12 teams. Oh, come on, man. We're gonna get a ton. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, let's talk about the NFL Hall of Fame game, which was suspended after 3 quarters between the Bears and the Texans because why not? It's weather related, right? That was a thing. And why is my picture so off center? Why is my whole thing off center? I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Hell yeah.
Hey, you know what? It is what it is. Um,
Who am I not paying back here?
yeah, who? Right? It's all wonky. I didn't even realize. And some of my pictures are blurry, so it's been a problem. We've been going on. Brett Rippon, 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you believe in preseason game number 1.
We're ripping it. Let's go.
Yeah, he looked good, right? I mean, this game had no Caleb Williams. It had no C.J. Stroud, and other starters too. So why do we do preseason? Just to figure out who the reserves are going to be? Is this why we do it?
That's the way I've always understood it. Is the function of preseason is to help dwindle down your roster.
Yeah.
And in the case of teams that have quarterback conflicts,
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity to see real pressure, real hits.
that's true.
It's also an adjustment period, I suppose, for like linemen, because linemen all wear those
Did you
helmet pads in practices and things like that. So yeah.
did you watch any of it?
I did not get to
Okay.
see any of it.
Did
No.
you-
It was I saw the highlights though, and there were some great catches in there.
Yeah,
They came out hot.
Okay, the kickoff thing is going to get to me. The lineup for the kickoff
I
is going to
kind of
get
like
to me.
it.
I
It's
know,
quirky, but I
it's-
kind of like
it's
it.
quirky. It bothers me. I don't know why. Well, just because I've never seen it before, right? This is new.
Yeah.
And so it kind of was one of those things where I look at it and I go, this doesn't look right. This just doesn't feel right. What is
Something's
going
wrong.
on? It's okay. It'll work itself out. I get it. It's just me because I'm a traditional person and I just nah. So yeah, I watched a little bit of it. It was meh. I got tired of it. I turned it away. I watched the kickoff and I was like, nah, it doesn't look right. That was the basic gist of what happened. Let's talk about the NFL. Other NFL notes. Brandon Ayuk may get traded from the Niners.
Maybe.
There's people interested in Brandon Ayuk. The Patriots being one of those teams. And then Niners were not willing to accept offers or let him negotiate with somebody else at the beginning of camp, but now they are. Does that mean that they've found another receiver and he's expendable? Is that what that means?
I don't think it means anything necessarily.
Okay. Or that he's just so unhappy they're willing to let him go now.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like if what they're doing is accurate, which is that they're not letting him dictate what the team is going to do.
Right.
Then I'm very much on board with them being like, oh no, sorry man, nobody out there. You're just gonna deal with it and play for us, or
Right.
don't play.
Right.
That's your call.
your
Waste your
call.
good years sitting
It's
on
true.
a bench.
Could be.
So I kind of like if that's what they're doing, but also I really don't think they're going to give him to anyone who can hurt them
You wouldn't think.
unless you're giving them
A lot
something
of stuff,
valuable
yeah.
in return. And there is not the Patriots just went out today on Brandon Ayuk. There's not a damn thing on there that they have that they can give up
Right.
for him. They maybe have a defensive player or two, but yeah, nothing picks. I mean, you need to give up a couple first rounders.
So also Niners news. Christian McCaffrey going to be out the rest of the preseason with a calf injury, calf strain.
Eh.
Is it a thing or is it not a thing?
I mean, it's precautionary, right?
Sure.
Like, it's
Was he going to play much
this
anyway?
guy in the preseason. Exactly is
right.
the point. Like, does it really matter? Like,
Right.
the Russell Wilson, I think, had a calf strain a couple weeks ago, and they kept him out for whatever reason or something like that. And they were like, oh yeah, he might miss some preseason games. It's like, okay,
I'm
like,
gonna
who cares?
I'm gonna put a statement out there right now. You ready? Chris,
Yeah.
You can disagree if you want to. Christian McCaffrey is the best professional football player in the NFL. Prove me
No.
wrong. Prove me wrong.
Prove you wrong. How many sacks?
Who's
does he
better?
have?
Who's better than him? He
How
doesn't
many-
play.
how
He
many
doesn't play
picks does
defense.
he have?
He doesn't play defense. How many touchdowns does J.J. Watt have? Does T.J. Watt have?
And well, hold on now.
Rushing
TJ
touchdowns?
TJ has
Receiving
well, that's a
touchdowns?
different story. Hey, hold on. We went there. It's hard to say. I will
Right.
give if you were to want to say he's the most versatile offensive player in the NFL. Absolutely, without a doubt. He catches like a receiver. He runs like a running back. He can throw like a quarterback.
He
He
can.
can do damn near everything. He
Yep.
pass blocks with the best of them, like
Yeah.
any tight end.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. So if you want to say that, but to say that he's the best football player in the NFL,
There's always one though.
when he doesn't do I won't make that statement because he
Right.
doesn't do everything. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl rings. How many does he have?
Okay.
And Patrick Mahomes has thrown touchdowns and run
Yeah.
for touchdowns
Sure.
and done all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But he's definitely less of an athlete, and I would 1,000% agree with that.
Yeah.
But he's got every bit of accolade to go with it.
But winning titles to
it's
me
tough.
doesn't make you a superstar. I mean, I get it, winning titles. I get it. There's a lot of guys with 5 Super Bowl rings out
Right.
there that were backups on every damn team.
I get what
Yeah.
you're saying,
Yeah.
but this is exactly
Patrick
the
Mahomes
problem.
is great as a
Football is
quarterback.
more of a team sport than any other sport I think out there.
Right.
And
don't-
he can only do so much by himself,
Good.
and they'll still lose football games.
Good.
Because of their defense.
Here's my question to you. Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
Acquires Christian McCaffrey offseason. Somehow the Chiefs get him.
Yeah.
Does that not make them better? Does it not make them even better than a championship contender? Does it not make them the number one favorite immediately? If they
They're the number
acquired
one
Christian
favorite
McCaffrey,
already.
you think Kansas City's the favorite right now?
I actually don't know.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if they acquired Christian McCaffrey right now, would you not say, "Oh, well, they won the Super Bowl. It's over"? You would. You would have to, because oh my God.
I'm trying to look at the betting
when
lines.
you
It's
when
like,
you
oh,
add
yeah.
when you
Kansas
add him,
City Chiefs are the favorites. So.
probably when you add him to a
they're plus
team
five.
like that, it makes
Yeah.
them almost unbeatable. It's going to make their offense so good. And I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is bad. They're already good. But what
I
I'm saying
agree
is,
with you.
yeah, what I'm getting at is you can't fault him for not throwing his own passes to himself. If he could, he would, and he'd be that good.
I agree.
You can't fault him for
you add Debo Samuel to the Chiefs. Do their chances increase dramatically?
no, not as much as Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Debo's a better receiver.
The bottom line is I will refuse to budge on this on calling him the best football player because he doesn't play defense, and I will refuse to call any defensive football player the best football player
have an MVP.
because they don't play offense.
There's no MVP in the NFL.
I typically just actually I think there probably shouldn't be. There probably should be an offensive and a defensive MVP, but those are things.
Which
those do exist.
Yeah, they do already.
Yeah, there's each division does that, or sorry, each division, each conference does that, and then there's one overall league MVP. I don't see how you can dwindle it down to one person. Joe Flacco was the league MVP last year.
Yeah, I don't get it.
He came in and took his team to the playoffs.
Well,
like it's insane. It's insane.
And honestly, the second place person that I would tell you is the best one, Lamar Jackson.
Again, these are the common thread through all of these guys is that they're extremely athletic versatile people, but they still only play on one side of the ball.
Dynamic.
Lamar, I will give you.
Well,
Lamar,
no one
I will
plays
give
both
you,
sides of the ball
Hold
anymore.
on, Lamar, I will give you even more because he throws the ball, which I think is harder than catching and running. I think making good reads and throwing the ball is harder than catching and running. Like when you run a route, you have one job: run that route. But when the ball is snapped, I'm reading 4 routes and then deciding which one to go to, and that may be yours. And then all you have to do once I send it your way, which I say all you have to do like it's easy, then what you have to do is catch it and try and make something happen afterward.
Easy.
Christian McCaffrey's great at catching it and making something happen afterward, but he does not read defenses from quarterback level. So
who's the best?
Who's
the best football player in the NFL? You got to pick one. There's only one NFL MVP. He's got to be the best football player in the league, right? Who is it?
That's tough.
All right.
Tyreek Hill?
Maybe. He's the fastest one. There's no doubt about that.
For damn sure. He's been dynamic on 2 offenses.
He's
2 sets
How
of
come they don't hand him the football?
Coaches.
How come they don't run with it? But they use sweeps.
They use them on
things,
jet sweeps.
Right, yeah, they do that. But they don't.
He has been on 2 different teams and been wildly successful.
And here's
and not that Christian McCaffrey hasn't.
Right, and here's the difference between those two guys. Why I say that McCaffrey's better than Tyreek Hill, because McCaffrey runs the ball up the middle and gets pounded, and then still runs outside you and still catches the ball downfield. Tyreek Hill could not run the ball up the middle; he would die.
It might be Travis Kelce.
It might be Travis Kelce.
Because that guy has no business being as fast as he is, being as strong as he is.
He's got great hands. Great. If you watch the quarterback TV show on Netflix, he has fantastic IQ. Yeah. He changes his routes all the time, and that's good chemistry with the quarterback. Like the quarterback figures it out. But he might be up there too because he blocks. Yeah. Fantastic. So he blocks full on DNs, whereas Christian McCaffrey will be asked to, chop block a blitzing linebacker most of the time. True. He's not taking on Myles Garrett. True. But Travis Kelce will. I don't know. It's such a tough thing to say. All right. But I will concede that he is the most talented, gifted, athletic player in the NFL. Okay. That's fair.
That I will concede.
Let's talk about quarterback battles. In Pittsburgh, they have a quarterback battle. Russell Wilson was going to be the starter. He was like a lock, and now he's got some injury issues, and maybe it's him, and maybe it's not. So is Russell Wilson going to be the starter on game 1 in Pittsburgh?
I think so. I think they already came out and said that they're going to lean on Russ so Justin can learn.
But Justin Fields has been taking all the number 1 team snaps because of Russell's ankle injury or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And
All
when he's
right,
not
just
injured, he'll take all the number one team
okay.
snaps.
All right. Just curious. That was a question. Let's go to Denver, where it's Bo Nix, it's Jared Stidham. Is it Bo Nix or is it Jared Stidham? I guess is the question, right? Stidham
Well,
in
as of this morning, they released the depth chart, and Bo Nix is listed as third.
third on the depth chart.
He's listed as third behind Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham.
Zach
who's the
Wilson number
starter.
one?
Zach Wilson's two.
Oh,
Jarrett
two.
Stidham's the
Okay,
starter.
okay.
Yeah. That being said, Bo Nix is taking a lot of reps at one in practice.
Right.
So this is a preseason depth chart that is leading into the preseason game.
Okay.
So maybe that's the setup for the game. Maybe Jarrett Stidham will come out and play the first drive or two or whatever it is, and then more reps will get put on Nix and Wilson over the course of the game. Maybe that's how that goes. I think this will end. I want to believe this will end up being Bo Nix's job, partially because I'm biased, but partially because I think you just drafted him so high.
Right.
Why not start to try and get your money out of him?
Right.
He's done nothing in training camp to prove that he makes good decisions. He's not. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the group, but he makes the best decisions consistently. He will very rarely put your team in a bad position. He doesn't take sacks. He doesn't throw a lot of picks.
Right.
But he also doesn't have a ton of 30, 40-yard bombs like I watched Jarrett Stidham have in practice. So it's like he does different things. So do you want that game manager? Do you want that, Sean Payton has a couple times made comparisons to Drew Brees, and I see it. I get what he's saying. Drew Brees is not the most athletic guy. Drew Brees does not throw the deepest bombs on earth, but Drew Brees was efficient as heck.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's looking for. So I will say this, even if Stiddy starts the season, I think that it'll be Bo Nix's job by midway.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. I think Zach Wilson's going to get cut.
Las Vegas, the Raiders have a quarterback battle going on. Can Minshew win the quarterback battle in Las Vegas?
He should.
You think he should?
Gardner Minshew has been quite the weird player, but he's never been given the proper chance. He went to a Jacksonville team that was dysfunctional at its core, and then started bouncing around teams ever since then. It's the same thing that happened with Marcus Mariota. Once that team got dysfunctional, he started bouncing around, and he just couldn't get his foothold anywhere because no one's giving him the time and the chance and the opportunity. I think Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback than Aiden O'Connell. Also, I hate Aiden O'Connell's mustache.
Aiden O'Connell was the quarterback at the end of last year. They won 3 out of their last 5 after the bye week. Does that mean anything? Well, they won at Kansas City in Week 16. Not that it means anything. And they beat the Chargers in a humiliating 63-21 game. So there's that.
A Herbertless Chargers.
He was also
the Broncos had just beat.
He was also the quarterback when they lost at home to Minnesota 3-0. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
by the way, if you haven't watched it, so last year they did quarterbacks on Netflix. This year they did receivers.
Yeah.
And I think it's just called receiver, but Devontae Adams is one of the receivers, and they follow them kind of during that game. It is hilarious how frustrated everyone's getting.
Minshew's on his 4th team?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Jacksonville, Indianapolis,
Philadelphia, and where's the other place?
And now the Raiders. That's 4. I think that's it.
Jacksonville, Philadelphia, Indy, Raiders. Yeah, 4. So yeah,
4. He's on his 4th football team.
But once Jacksonville bounced him for no great reason, it didn't feel like they had a really, really good reason. Like he wasn't doing great, but he'd only been there for 2 years.
Right.
And then just chaos ensued. So I don't know. I feel like Minshew's the better quarterback.
He might be. I don't know. I can't. To be honest with you, I can't tell.
But pay wise, you're paying Aiden O'Connell more, I think.
But they didn't need Minshew, right? I mean, Trevor Lawrence is their guy, and you're trying to save money because you're trying to pay Lawrence and Etienne Jr., right? So. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you got to save your money, so you got to, if you got a capable backup that's somebody wants, you got to get rid of him, right? That's how it works in the NFL anymore. Backup quarterbacks don't stay around as long as they used to. You don't get to Homestead for for whatever reason. Minnesota. Let's go to Minnesota. JJ McCarthy, right?
Oh my gosh, all the memes coming out of Minnesota have been
Or Sam Darnold.
hilarious.
JJ McCarthy or Sam
I
Darnold?
think Sam Darnold's going to start the season.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think same thing as Bo Nix. I think it'll end up with, I think Bo Nix will end up, or not Bo Nix. Gosh, JJ McCarthy will end up as the quarterback of that team before the end of the season.
Okay, Sam Darnold is on his what's team now? I feel like
60th.
I feel like it's only his fourth. Again, the Jets, Carolina, San Francisco, and now Minnesota since 2018 when he came in.
Do we even call that San Francisco stop a stop?
He played 10 games. He played in 10 games.
Yeah, I know.
I know, right?
Still more games than Jimmy G played in San Francisco.
Right. So there's that. I don't know. Sam Darnold. You know, as good as he was in college, okay, great. JJ McCarthy's your quarterback of the future, right? So if you believe in, hey, let him hold the clipboard and let Sam Darnold take all the knocks while he learns and put him in when you need to, then that's probably what they'll do. Otherwise, you're just going to shove him in there like some teams do and hope that your offensive line can protect him and he doesn't get hurt and he picks up things quickly. The learning curve, it depends on how fast you think he can learn from game time stuff, because it's not, you don't learn it in preseason games, you don't learn it in practice. Once the game starts, once the actual full season, full speed crap happens, you learn so much in those first 2 or 3 games that that's where your learning curve happens. And you don't know, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. That's
yeah. I think McCarthy is going to be okay long run, but I honestly think he's the most overrated of all of them. Of all the quarterbacks from the draft.
He could be.
Like, another thing we didn't talk about is, Kirk Cousins is, I think, the de facto quarterback of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I think if Kirk Cousins does not produce fast, Michael Penix will take that job real fast.
Could be. He's been paid a lot of money. So
he's been paid.
They all have.
Yeah, he's been paid a lot of money.
They all get paid a lot of money. I'm sure they're paying Kirk Cousins a lot of money. So
it's true.
Yeah.
I did read today that there's over 20 wide receivers that make $20 million a year.
Really?
There's 20 different wide receivers. There's actually 21, I think is the number. There's 21 wide receivers that make over $20 million a year.
And
that's an insane amount of.
And I probably can't name you 10 number 1 wide receivers that I would take as a number 1 wide receiver. I mean, 10 maybe. After that, you're like, okay.
Who do you think is the best
number
1 wide receiver? You're building a team.
Okay.
All other pieces aside, you
Fair.
have to pick one guy to start your receiving core with.
Justin Jefferson.
That's a great choice. I was gonna say DK Metcalf.
Yeah, it's another good choice. But yeah, Justin Jefferson.
But I like that neither of us said Tyreek Hill. Neither of us said Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel.
No.
None of us went that route. We were all like,
Jefferson he checks all of the boxes. He's got enough speed, enough height, enough arm strength, hand strength. He does those things, and he makes great catches. He has the instinct to catch the football, and that's who I'd take.
I would take Stephon Diggs
Maybe.
if he didn't have what seems like personality issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this season goes from all that.
Yeah. Hey, what else you got?
Well, I wanted to tell you that I went to training camp today.
Yeah.
Broncos training camp. I went out there. I got free tickets to go to it. So, it sucks.
Does it?
So what it is, yeah, I mean, it's fun watching the players get out there and play and things like that. But the actual experience, anybody who's never watched a practice before, watched a football practice at a college or an NFL, it's very different than what you'd expect. It's not like games. They're not just scrimmaging the whole time.
Right.
So they come out and, you have positional warm-ups, and then you have an offensive warm-up and a defensive warm-up, and then you have a team warm-up, which is where they're jogging across the field or stretching calves or all laying down and twisting and things like that. And then they get up, and then they move on to install, so learning new plays, which when you're a fan and you're not close to what they're saying, you have no freaking clue what they're doing or what they're talking about. So you don't hear any of it. And then they move on to some situational things. So they were doing like PATs or field goals. And then they finally, to end the practice, they did 2-minute drills, which is the closest you can get to game scenario. And that was actually really fun to watch. But it was 86 degrees outside. There's no shade because this is Colorado.
Right.
And we're sitting on this berm, and the inside, and you're not allowed to bring chairs. You have to bring blankets. You cannot bring chairs.
Right.
So I'm sitting crisscross applesauce. The insides of both of my thighs are burned to a crisp. And I'll see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You'll see. They'll be nice and tan by then. But and so you're hot. The sun's beating down on you. You have no clue what's going on the field most of the time because it's all broken up. And there's two fields, and they face both. There's one right in front of you horizontally, and there's one past it.
Oh,
so if they're doing stuff on the other field,
you
have no
see it.
freaking clue what they're doing.
Right.
They were doing a bunch of quarterback drills over there for the first 3/4 of the day. I had no clue what was happening.
Funny.
And so then it ends, and the payoff is supposed to be you're supposed to have an opportunity to get some signatures from some athletes.
Right.
The issue is about 90% of them are hot as hell as well, and they're ready to end their day. So about 90% of them just leave the field and walk straight to the locker room. There's a handful that stay. Bo Nix came over and signed autographs, but the problem with Bo Nix signing autographs is I was on the left side. I was probably at the 20-yard line. On the left side, he could walk straight to the 50, and he barely moved. People just kept funneling things into him.
Yeah.
And then he signed autographs for 15, 20 minutes, which kudos to him. That's a long time. And then walked away.
Right.
But he never came down to my side, and I'm not about to start elbowing kids out of the way because they're all bratty and they really need to go back to school.
Bigger kids, yes.
Yeah, no, I'll throw some dude. I'll get a spot on that team. They see me freaking manhandling dudes out there, just throwing them around. But so it was a lot of sitting in the sun, baking, not knowing quite what was happening. That ultimately led to I got one signature, and that is Blake Watson, from undrafted rookie from Memphis.
Oh, nice.
Who's a running back. He came over and to our little section and just immediately started talking to people and being very nice and very civil. So I now have a fan favorite on the team.
And that's why you go.
That is true. I got to have a good introduction. I did wear my Duck jersey, and I got Troy Franklin and Calvin Throckmorton were talking.
Ooh.
And they were by the goalpost, and I was yelling, Troy! And I kept screaming his name, and then he wasn't looking, so I go, Calvin! And then Calvin turns and looks, and I hold up the O above my head, and then he smacks Troy and points, and they both look and wave.
Well, there you go.
And then they walked off the field, and I was like, I want you
Oh,
guys to come over here and sign something.
dang it.
But it's better than nothing. I got the two of them. My goal was to get all four Ducks, was to get Forsyth, Throckmorton, Troy Franklin, and Bo, but I didn't end up getting any of them. And I have tickets to tomorrow's training camp, but there's no way in hell I'm going to go sit in the sun again for another 2 hours.
If you go to a game, like a road game, if you can go to an away game of theirs and you bring a Duck jersey and you can get it to where they can see it, then you probably have a good chance. A home game, not so much, because everybody's going to be there, right? Crowding around them. But a road game, different.
So here's the thing that we're looking into. So obviously I'm coming back to go to the Seahawk game. So that's a road game.
Yep.
And Austin and I are trying to find seats, and we have found a couple 100 level seats that we are entertaining. And that would put me in a good position to try and get close to the railing.
Right.
To hold my jersey over
right.
and yell for him, please come over here. Because Alex Forsyth is not a starter. Bo Nix may not be a starter in Seattle. Calvin Throckmorton's not a starter, and Troy Franklin's 6th on the depth chart. So they all, in theory, shouldn't be doing anything during the day.
Yeah,
they all
got free time now. Yeah.
We'll see. But no, I say I'll never do it again because I don't. If it was 30 degrees cooler, I'm on board. I could go sit in that all day, but to sit out there and just roast while there's not a ton to really watch. Right. I think next time what I'll do is, if I do go next year, I'll stand higher up. I won't try the signature thing. I'll just stay up high, because then you can see both fields a little better.
Well, you were with us when we went to the Tennessee and Miami.
Yeah, it was a scrimmage, right? Yeah.
And that was an actual. It had gameplay.
They did some practice stuff, yeah.
So it was a little better.
They did practice new kickoffs for probably a good 20 minutes. So I got to see a lot of
the new formation.
What that looks like, and how they're queuing for it. It's very strange, but I think it's going to yield some some
Interesting
big
plays,
plays because those
yeah.
guys who are catching the ball can get a lot of steam before somebody can get to them.
It's true.
So I think it's gonna be nice.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see though.
Anyway,
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Well, that's all I got. Unless you got something else.
Same.
Okay. Well, that's all we got for today. So, I wish that things were not playing here. Obviously. There you go. I don't know. It wouldn't play. The other one wouldn't play, so this one's gonna play. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. We will talk again next week, and that's after we watch the Mets and Mariners this weekend. I know, right?
Oh,
It's
maybe
gonna
we
be
should
exciting.
film a live update together
We're gonna try. We have to
and
try.
then put it in here.
Yeah, we'll try and do that. We'll get it on. We'll get a video or two.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we have for this weekend. We'll talk more about NFL. We'll talk more about the Olympics, which are going to end here shortly, right? This weekend is the end.
Soon.
Yeah.
Either this weekend or early next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about the Olympics, and we'll talk. I don't know what else we'll find to talk about. Major League Baseball. Who knows what? Not a whole lot out there at the moment. More college football prep. So anyway, we want to thank everyone for listening. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media, and we'll see you next week.